Although the start of the Arab expansion into the Middle East is often associated with the battles of Yarmouk and Al-Qadisiyah, raids and counter-raids were a constant for the region. The tribal Arabs and the Sassanid Empire clashed early and often, and the Battle of Dukar was the perfect example of the political and tribal reality of the region prior to the rise of the Caliphate. During the 2nd century AD, a group of Arabian tribes united in the Tanukid Confederation and moved from southern Timaha to Iraq and Syria. After a war with the local Arab tribes, the Lakhmid dynasty under Amir ibn Adi formed a new kingdom in 268, with Al-Hira as its capital. Amir's son Imru al-Qais was more ambitious and attempted to unite all of the Arabs living in Syria, Lebanon and Iraq into one kingdom. In 325, the Sassanid Shah, Shapur II, finally moved against the Lakhmids. His son Amr II accepted Sassanid rule and became their vassal. The 6th century saw the Lakhmids at the peak of their power. In 580, the king Al-Munshir IV passed away, and the Sassanid Shah, Hormizd IV, had to choose his successor from among his 12 sons. The Lakhmid poet Adi ibn Zayd was influential at the Sassanid court, and he convinced Hormizd to raise Al-Numan to the throne. In 590, Hormizd was overthrown by his general Bahram Chobin. Hormizd's son Khosrow asked Al-Numan III for assistance, but the latter demanded his independence as a payment, so Khosrow was restored to the throne with the help of the Roman Emperor Maurice in 591. Relationships between the Sassanids and Lakhmids soured even more in 595, when Al-Numan III arrested Ibn Zayd, convinced that he was plotting against him. Khosrow II protested, but was preoccupied with the rebellions in his realm and didn't act on his protests. The Sassanid Shah actually attempted to restore the ties with the Lakhmids in 600 and asked Al-Numan for his daughter's hand. According to the sources, Al-Numan refused and even insulted the Sassanid women. The Lakhmid king understood that he had made a mistake and that retribution would happen soon. He contacted one of the largest Arab tribes, Bakir ibn Wa'il, asking for help. The latter promised to protect Al-Numan's family and possessions. In 602, Khosrow invited Al-Numan to Ctesiphon, where he was imprisoned and soon died. Khosrow appointed a governor for Al-Hira, effectively ending the Lakhmid kingdom. Khosrow demanded that the tribe send them to Ctesiphon, but the Bakir ibn Wa'il's chiefs refused, so a war between the Sassanids and the Arab tribe became inevitable, so the Shah ordered his governors to attack the Bakir ibn Wa'il. Initially they were gripped by fear, but their leader, Hanzala bin Thalaba, managed to restore order. As the tribesmen rushed headlong to run away, Hanzala admonished them to fight and resist. He then cut through the leather straps on the camels' saddles to prevent fleeing tribesmen taking their families with them on their flight. It was to be a fight to the death, with no exceptions. Hanzala erected his tent in the depression of Dukar and took an oath that he would not flee. A part of the tribe stayed at the depression, while the others went to a water source near the bend of Dukar to stock up on water. There they met the Persian vanguard looking to do the same. The Persians came upon them and fought them at the bend. The vanguard suffered from thirst, hence they fled without making much of a stand. Being hard pressed, they retreated to the nearby water source of Al-Jubabat. The Bakir ibn Wa'il pursued them, fighting fiercely. The Persian troops came together in a compact mass, threatening their pursuers and hoping to secure a source of water. Then the rest of the tribesmen at the bend rallied to the attack, pressuring the Persians to relinquish their position. The two groups fought at Al-Jubabat for a whole day. Once again, the Persians had no chance of storing water, and they suffered from thirst in the burning summer heat. They again retreated, this time towards the depression of Dukar, where the other tribesmen of the Bakr ibn Wa'il had taken up their positions. When night fell, one of the Sassanid auxiliaries from the Banu Iyad tribe sent a secret message to Bakr ibn Wa'il that we should arise and steal away under the cover of night, or stay here and take to flight when you encounter the enemy. The tribesmen preferred the second option. At night, a group of tribe members used the turmoil of the early morning fighting to lay an ambush a bit further along the valley towards the Euphrates. This group, commanded by Yazid bin Himar, was ordered to conceal themselves in what is known as the Hollow of Dukar in order to surprise the approaching main Persian army. The second day of the battle entered a new phase when the main Persian army reached their vanguard in the depression of the Dukar Valley. The armies finally met across the line and the fighting was fierce. However, the weather was still extremely hot, and as neither side was gaining the upper hand and the warriors were becoming tired, soon the lines retreated. Seeing that some of his kinsmen were fearful, commander of the Arab army Hanzala used a brief lull in the fighting to cut even more straps on saddles to make sure nobody would flee the battlefield. He also reorganized his army into two groups on the flanks without a strong center. When the fighting started again, warriors of the tribal left moved against the Persian cavalry on the right wing. Sources claim that as the lines met, the leader of the Arab flank called his Sassanid counterpart to a duel, as was common practice at the time. The Arab warrior won, and that shifted the morale on both sides. When Hanzala noticed this, he led the whole of his left wing against the Persian right wing, as he wanted to take advantage of the enemy's lack of leadership to further pressure them. On the Persian left, the battle was also fierce. The valley of Dukar witnessed a violent battle, with both the Persians and the tribesmen fighting in closed ranks. The concealed force under Yazid then came up behind the Persians from the hollow of Dukar and launched an attack on the rear of the enemy's centre, where the Sassanid leader, Iyas ibn Qabisa, was. Just at that moment, the tribesmen of Banu Iyad turned around and fled as they promised, causing confusion and the subsequent rout of the whole Persian army. The Bakr ibn Wa'il had made their enemy yield, and they turned and fled. They slew the Persians and those with them from the depression of Dukar as far as an unidentified place a bit further away to the northwest. The Battle of Dukar had lasted for 2 full days, and it became known throughout the whole Arabian Peninsula. Although this battle had no short-term consequences, it played a role in the Caliphate's expansion. The Arab tribes were more willing to join the Muslim forces, and the lack of the Lakhmid buffer made the Sassanids vulnerable.